Hello, good evening and welcome to Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council full council meeting tonight, the 25th of June. Can I remind everybody, people who don't know, if you can turn your phone onto airplane mode or off, it's a preference because it does affect the recording. With regret, I'm having to leave mine on because I have an emergency situation. So with that said, we will move swiftly on to item 1 of the agenda, which deals with a co-option. As people are aware, there is a vacancy for St Stephen's Ward. What I would ask is the 4 people who have expressed an interest in this opportunity, if you don't wish to be filmed, please can you let us know before you step forward to the microphone if you're going to speak. We have the option, if you wish, to turn the recording off, or you can be filmed the same as we are filming all of our meetings. So with that in mind, I will move on to the co-option, and this is done via a strikeout vote. We have 4 people who have expressed an interest, and hopefully they're all here tonight. You have the opportunity to speak to us as councillors in advance, and then we will do a strikeout vote. Councillors should know what a strikeout vote is because we passed this a couple of months ago, but for those that don't know, they're done by rounds, and all 4 who have stood, councillors will be asked to vote for just one of those in that round, and the one with the lowest votes is removed from the strikeout vote. If one person has the majority vote, then they are elected at round 1. If they don't have a majority, we go into another round with another set of voting until we get down to 2, then it's a straight head-to-head vote. The checking of it, and the councillors will be asked to leave their hand raised. Myself, our town clerk and deputy town clerk will write down who receives whose votes to ensure that there is no duplication of voting, and we will compare to check accuracy and then make the announcement over what's happened with the results. Okay? So I'm not going to go in any particular order, bar the order that our clerk has given the statements that have been made. So the first person is Mr. John Lee. Hello. You have the opportunity to speak if you wish. Do you wish to speak? Are you okay being recorded? No problem. If you could make your way to that microphone there and introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak to the councillors here.
Okay. There we go, that's close enough. Everyone can hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
For those who don't know me, my name's John Lee. I know quite a few of you already. I've lived in this town for about 12 years now and love the place. I had to move here, circumstances because of this injury, and no, really like the town. It's a good place, but there's room for bits of improvement. There's bits and pieces that, being a disabled person, that I can see needs doing. You know, I've spoke to Terry in the past about mirrors on some of the sidewalks, on some of the crossings. That would be helpful, especially for people as myself in wheelchairs to cross the road. In some places it's quite dangerous. You have to get out onto the road and dodge the traffic. It can be a problem. That's the thing with disabled. Also, again, being disabled, there's access. That's the other thing I'd like to be involved with the council. I did a little straw poll myself going through the town. It's about 60-40% of buildings or shops and pubs especially, that you can, or disabled people can't get into. 60 you can, 40 you can't. It's a rough estimate. That's something, again, I wouldn't mind getting involved in, helping the people with these shops and these enterprises get people like myself in. Some of them do have ramps, I must say. They do have ramps, and they're quite happy to bring them out for you. But it's quite off-putting for people like myself and a lot of people in this town who are wheelchair bound or who use wheelchairs. Or there's a lot of us who can get out and use sticks, but it's somewhat off-putting to go to a shop and ask for a ramp. You tend to go past. It's same with the restaurants, same with the pubs. I think there's 5 or 6 pubs in the area, and I think 2 are actually wheelchair access. That's something I'd like to be involved in. Again, there's the access going towards Sidley. There's a bridge that goes over the 259, which is a lovely bridge, a nice little pathway that gets there. only when you get to the other side of the bridge it's all steps that go down. I've discussed this with one of the other councillors a little while back. And that's something to be addressed, because otherwise to get round it's a 269 all the way to get to Sidley, because this Albert Road surgery here isn't always available, and a lot of us have to get to Sidley, and using a bus with one of these isn't always the best or easiest thing. So that's something that could be addressed and could be done. It just needs smoothing out so as the descent into Sidley or into Sidley Hospital could be wheelchair accessible on that. The other thing is the town rangers, the power rangers that's coming up, hopefully, in this town. That is something I'd love to get involved with. And I've spent a lot of my youth and my time on the building sites, doing everything from ground work up to roofing work, all sorts. I don't know how far along the process is. I know the advert's gone out for them. But that's something I'd like to be involved with as well. It'd be nice to show for people, especially on social media platforms like Facebook, your before and your afters. I mean, at the moment we're relying on people like Balfour Beatty, I think it is. And I spoke to one of the councillors about the little landslide on the footpath.
That is your 3 minutes, John.
Oh.
I know.
Is that me done?
It is.
Okay. Oh,
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Please mind the camera when you're reversing back.
Be very wary.
Councillor Hollis will help.
There we go.
Okay, thank you very much. The second name that I have in front of me is Ms. Victoria Carson. If you'd like to make your way, and likewise you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and I hope you don't mind, but I've got notes.
That's fine.
I'm a bit nervous. So. Anyway, I'd like to say good evening to the councillors and the officers, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm not familiar with how the internal process works, obviously, and whether you've seen the email that I sent in, so I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Victoria Carson, and I've lived in Bexhill since 2018 with my husband and our 13-year-old daughter. I've read the council's vacancy co-option notice, and I confirm that I do meet all the eligibility criteria. I've been following the work of the council for some time, and you may have seen me in the audience, and I've also been watching online. I understand the council's responsibilities include managing discretionary services such as allotments and verges, and that it will be taking on further assets from Rother District Council. And I'm also aware that the council has the ability to support local endeavours through its grants programme, and is progressing the development of a neighbourhood plan amongst other activities. Now that my daughter is older, I find that I have more time available and would be grateful for the opportunity to support Bexhill residents by contributing to the work of the Town Council. Previously in my professional life, I worked as a freelance film and television production accountant, where I was responsible for delivering best value for money, a skill that I believe will translate well to local governance. Beyond finance, I'd be proud to contribute to the promotion of Bexhill as one of the finest towns on the south coast. I do enjoy working as part of a team, and I also recognise that the current underrepresentation of women on the council, and would welcome the opportunity to help address that imbalance. So thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Sorry about my nerves.
Do not worry at all.
Big audience.
It's a big audience for us as well. Third on my list is Mr. Paul Brailsford. If you could again move to the microphone.
Good evening. I'm Paul Brailsford. I think most of the people know who I am because I've been on many of the council participants. I was born and grew up in a coastal resort in Lincolnshire. I have some understanding of the problems that coastal towns have. If elected, I will endeavour to meet residents and will listen and raise their concerns to the town council organisations above if needed, regardless of the outcome of the devolution in the future. Apparently there is a Rother Police community meeting at St Stephen's on Tuesday 1st of July. I'll be there. At this time, a crucial time with devolution, with the demise of Rother District Council and East Sussex County Council over the next few years. The Town Council must stay independent of any other councils. This includes Rother councillors on the Town Council. At present there are 22% of councillors, to obtain the best outcome for the residents of Bexhill. The residents of Bexhill are the most important part of the town, so we need to be independent of all political parties and associations. That is why I'm standing for co-option as a totally independent. I'm not affiliated to any party political. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Stanger.
Thank you.
Same process if you can move to the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me now? Yeah, it's fine. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors and staff. My name is Jimmy Stanger. Some of you may know me, some may not. I present myself this evening for co-option to Bexhill Town Council, representing St Stephen's ward vacancy. I am deeply committed to our community and believe I possess the dedication, skills and vision necessary to contribute effectively to our town's future. I believe that people come first. Every voice in our community matters, and I'm committed to making sure that these voices are heard loud and clear. We need someone strong, independent and determined to represent us, and I believe I am that person. I take every role in life I have seriously. I'm a proud husband, father of 3 boys and a foster parent. I understand the value of family and the importance of support systems in our community. I currently serve as an independent district councillor for Rother District Council, where I hold the position of Chairman of Licensing, Vice Chairman of Planning, Co-Chair of Hastings and Rother Safer Partnership Board, covering all community safety matters. I firmly believe these roles will not create a conflict of interest, but rather serve as a significant enhancement to my ability to serve Bexhill Town Council. My experience at the district level has provided me with invaluable insight into local governance, policy making and collaborative working across various public services. Having lived and worked in Bexhill for many years, I have a profound understanding of our local area, its unique charm and the challenges we face. I've seen firsthand the spirit of our residents, the potential that lies within Bexhill as a town. My professional background combined with my existing council roles have equipped me with strong organisational and communicational skills, which I believe are vital for effective council work. I'm a keen listener, a problem solver and someone who is always prepared to roll up their sleeves and work collaboratively. If elected, my priorities for St Stephen's ward would be enhancing local amenities, supporting local businesses and improving community engagements. I'm not here with grand, unattainable promises, but a commitment to diligent, common sense representation. My experience at district level, particularly in licensing, planning and community safety, will allow me to hit the ground running and effectively navigate the complexities of local issues. I'm eager to work alongside fellow councillors, local organisations and more importantly the residents to make our town an even better place to live, work and visit. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Right. So we now move on to the voting side of this. Are all councillors 100% okay with what happens next with the voting? Otherwise I'll repeat the process, it's important. So, in the first round of voting, I ask you, as I have already, to please leave your hand raised for those who are voting to enable us to write down the names of the councillors that have voted for whoever. So, I'll stick to the same order. Please, councillors, can you show by raising your hands those in favour of John Lee? Okay, thank you. All those in favour of Victoria Carson, please show your hand. Okay, thank you. All those in favour of Paul Brailsford, please show your hands. Okay, thank you. And last but not least, all those in favour of Jimmy Sanger, please show your hands. Thank you. We will now confer with the Okay, so at this point the person with the lowest number of votes drops out, and then we'll have another re-vote. So the scores on the doors for that round was John Lee had 5, Victoria had 5, Paul had 2 and Jimmy had 3. So it is Paul Brailsford that drops out in the first round of the voting. So that then leaves us 3 candidates. And we now have another vote for another round. So I ask again, could you please show your hand for those in favour of voting for John to be co-opted? Thank you. All those in favour of Victoria voting, being elected? And all those in favour of Jimmy being elected, please show your hand. Okay, so the scores on the doors for that round is that John Lee received 7 votes, Victoria received 5 votes, and Jimmy received 2 votes. So in round 2, that means that Jimmy is removed from the election process, leaving 2, meaning that this is then a straightforward either or. So I ask again, all those in favour of John to be co-opted, please show your hands. It's quite difficult to write and hold my hand up at the same time. Thank you. And all those in favour of Victoria being elected, please show your hands. Okay, the result of the final round is that Mr John Lee has received 9 councillor votes and Ms Victoria Carson has received 6 councillor votes. So it gives me pleasure in announcing that Mr John Lee has been elected as through the co-option process to a councillor. I thank all those that have put their name forward to be co-opted. It's nice that people want to try and join us and make the town an even better place. John, with your election, that means you become a town councillor as at tonight.
Thank you.
There is a form that you will need to sign. You can sign that afterwards. You can see we're a bit tight on space. May I suggest that you direct yourself alongside Councillor Peters on the end here.
Yeah.
we will get better at organising seating, but we are quite tight for space.
Thank you.
Okay, that deals with item 1 on the agenda for tonight. We move on to item 2, which is public participation. We have a great number of people in the public area tonight, which is very good. Please can you show by raising your hand if you wish to speak? 1, 2. Okay, that's fine. You have 3 minutes to speak. I'll start over on this side. So if you could, sir, please move to the microphone over here. Introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak to us.
Hiya. I'm a resident. I've been a resident for about 20 years now. This is not groundbreaking stuff, but I'm retired now, and I go to Eastbourne and back about 3 times a week doing my voluntary work. And on the way there, I've often thought where the boundaries are. And I'm just bringing up something that I think you're going to bring up later. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I saw this big sign as I was going through the coast road that said Bexhill-on-Sea, which was right by Norman's Bay. And I thought, oh, this is great. Whoever arranged that, that's brilliant. Because I've got some people that were in the actual. I don't know who arranged that, but I've got some people that were in the. Well, there's anyway. To cut long story short. And I just thought it was such a great idea, but I understand somebody wants to get rid of it. But I bring up the point that Sidley is in Bexhill as well, and there's a sign just outside Sidley saying Bexhill-on-Sea, just as an example. So, you know, if anybody wants to get rid of that sign, I know it's not groundbreaking stuff, but you know, I just a resident just putting a point across, really.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I'm nervous as well.
Moving round from my right to left, who was next who wanted to speak? Thank you. If you could again move to the microphone and introduce yourself, and again you have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm John Scarborough, I'm chairman of the Normans Bay Residents Association and co-chair actually, so contrary to our friend here. Yeah. It's not so much a complaint about the sign itself, it's a complaint about the non-consultation. We had no idea this was going to be happening, and I really wonder on the relevance of it. Being in Normans Bay, a sign that says "Welcome to Bexhill." So that's it, really.
Okay. Just to confirm that if there are any questions, they will be in the next set of minutes.
Yes.
So, was there anybody else who wanted to speak? Any over on this side? I don't always see everyone's hands going up. Everyone had their opportunity? Okay.
Jim will talk.
Okay.
I can talk to Jimmy.
Okay. Again, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Jim Dash. I'm a resident of Normans Bay. We've lived there about 48 years. The sign. It's interesting to suddenly appear. We're not quite sure why, because we are quite a long way from Bexhill, although we're in St Mark's Ward. It's interesting in so much as it splits the village into 2. Part of Normans Bay is to the west of the sign, part of Normans Bay is to the east of the sign. I think the general feeling is it would have been nice that somebody would have said, we're going to put a sign up here, what do you think? Because we have a residents association that's pretty active. And the rest of us think, well, instead of spending money putting a sign up, why on earth didn't the town council clean the wall and get rid of all that awful graffiti that's there? You know, if you're going to spend some money in Normans Bay, please let's spend it on something that's worth spending it on. Not a sign. Get rid of the graffiti, because that graffiti is just going to encourage more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say something?
Yes, if you would move to the...
Can I just say something quickly?
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
If you move to the microphone.
Oh, over here, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Sheila Jackton, also a Normans Bay resident of more than 30 years. And Mr. Dash, what's your name, Dash? He'd mentioned that one could have it at the east we've got two ends, east and west, but the east end is a cul-de-sac. So the more appropriate way to have it is actually, you know, the west end, a sign there, and I don't know why it wasn't put there. I mean, it's lovely to have a sign for a village, absolutely lovely. So if you could please consider that, if we have it at the, as you want, enters the village at the west end. That's all I want to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Otherwise I will move on. 3, 2, 1, we'll move on. Okay. Item 3 of the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Councillor Carroll is on holiday and Councillor Crotty has another commitment.
Is it the wish of this council that we accept those as valid reasons for non-attendance to the summons? I'd like a proposal in a seconder for that, please.
Proposed.
Proposed. Seconded. All those in favour? All those against? I'm going to be against it. Carried. Accepted as apologies. Moving on to item 4, to receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest. Do we have any of those? Councillor Winter.
Thank you, Chair. Member of Rother District Council.
Thank you. Councillor Grayson.
Same, member of Rother District Council.
Member of Rother District
Thank you.
Council.
Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Chair. Member of Rother District Council.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? Nope. We'll move on. Chair's announcement. I have none. So we'll move on to item 6, which is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 21st of May, which is Appendix A. You've all had them. Just need a proposer and a seconder for those minutes, please. Proposing, Councillor Hunt, seconded, Councillor Pym. All those in favour of accepting those as a true record? All those against? That's carried. For those that haven't been before, there'll be a little bit of silence because I have to do some signing.
The vote sometimes. Not sure if you can abstain. Don't need to worry.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because I haven't read any of this, obviously. Thank you.
That is an unusually long set of minutes of 12 pages because it was our annual statutory meeting. They're not normally that long. Okay, move on to item 7, which is committees. These are purely for notation. To note the minutes of the Engagement and Communications Committee of the 4th of June, which is Appendix B, and the Finance and Audit Committee, Appendix C. Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just have a question of the committee. Under community events, where it says no tenders received for the Circle A sculpture, I did pass on to the clerk many moons ago the name of the sculptor that actually did the significant sculptures on Hastings Beach, but also the very recent sculpture down at the Rowing Club. So I'm just a bit concerned that we're not actually picking up these recommendations that were given, and I would like to see that happen, and I would like to see that particular sculpture approached. Thank you.
I'm sure that's going to be noted and we'll investigate and
Thank you, Chair.
take that away. Any other comments? Otherwise I'll move on to recommendations from committees. So there's a recommendation from the Engagement and Communication Committee. And it is a recommendation to this full council, which is they resolve to recommend to full council that the town council takes ownership of the Little Common War Memorial and assist with the installation of the flagpole on the roundabout. Engagement and Communications is chaired by Councillor Pym. Would you like to add anything to that, or is it a straightforward vote of this full council?
There is very little I can add to that, other than the fact that at the moment there is no flagpole on the roundabout. Whether we are able to get a flagpole put on there will be down to the Highways Department. They may very well sort of, not allow us to do that. But in order to do that, we would have to get ownership of the Little Common Memorial. So the two are jointly linked there. And no, I can't add any further than what I've said.
Okay. Councillor Drayson.
Yeah, sorry. So is it the memorial or the whole roundabout? And not only does it need the highways, possibly with the flagpole, it needs planning permission as well.
Yeah.
I don't see why we're committing ourselves to assisting that, but are we saying we want to own the whole roundabout? What extent is we're looking to take on?
So I've just been consulted. We believe that planning has been approved already previously, but whether that's dated or not, we have to clarify.
It'd be 3 years, so
and I believe this was discussed at a full council before with both of the memorials, and it was passed that this town council wanted to take them on, and this is purely a recommendation. So whether we can put a flagpole there, we'll have to do the groundwork to understand whether we can or can't first.
yeah, I'm trying to establish the extent of the memorial.
Okay.
The memorial is one thing, there's gardens, there's a Christmas tree, there's other bits. Are we taking over, are we looking to recommend we take over the roundabout?
No, it has, per the motion, takes ownership of Little Common War Memorial.
Thank you.
Councillor Baygrove?
Yes, wasn't there talk of moving it down to the Little Common Rec?
I haven't heard of that. Councillor Plim?
There is no formal recommendation to do that at present, although there is a number of people that realise the logistical challenges involved with having a war memorial in the middle of a busy main road. And so therefore, sometime in the future, that may raise its head.
And I guess if we take ownership of it, that would be down for us to do. At the moment, nobody has.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Jacklin.
I'd just like to say, as a St Mark's councillor, I welcome the work that you've done on this, but I would also concur that getting to the roundabout is difficult, but one wouldn't normally want to get to it.
To add to it, even wearing the mayoral outfit, it's tricky. And they can see me wearing that, and they can see our deputy wearing it. It is still tricky. Councillor Winter.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it's about time that the Town Council takes on the War Memorial. Last year, if it wasn't the thanks of a local community group the day before Remembrance Sunday, cleaning the War Memorial and mowing the lawns around it, we would have all been standing in a boggy marsh. And in respect of the talk about moving the War Memorial, regardless of whether it's on the A259 or not, it's a War Memorial, and that's where it's always been, and I would always be against moving the War Memorial. Thank you.
Okay, so this resolution that's come out of a committee is to take ownership of and assist with the installation, whether that can happen or not. So it needs proposer and seconder for full council. Councillor Pym proposing, Councillor Winter seconding. All those in favour, please show your hand. All those against? Okay, that's carried. And the second recommendation that needs to come to full council is from Finance and Audit, which states it was resolved to recommend the draft policy for allocating SIL funds to community groups to full council. Chair of Finance, I believe, is Councillor Hussain. Did you want to add anything to it? It's covered under Appendix D. We've never had a criteria to give SIL funds to community groups before. It's normally just for, so this just gives us a little bit more support when we are using the SIL funds, which is for community infrastructure. Any comments? Otherwise, it needs a proposer and a seconder. Sorry, Councillor Jacklin.
One of the points that came up in RALC, the Association of Parish and Town Councils, is that when SIL funds are allocated, they should be close to where the development from which the money came. Is there any provision for that, or are we comfortable that we'll allocate things appropriately?
I think that would be down to this town council where it spends the money. The difficulty with that is that you'd end up not spending any SIL money in Central Ward because there isn't any area to develop there to receive seal funds, and it would only be the outlying. So I think essentially that's probably easier for smaller parishes, but it may be harder for the town council to do that, but it is for us as councillors to decide where it's spent.
Thank you.
Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. From memory, I think that the length is about 10 miles from the buildings or whatever's going on. So I think that
will cover most of Bexhill.
It would swing things.
Yeah, I believe it's 10 miles.
So if there's no other comments, I need a proposer and a seconder. Who's proposing? Councillor Ruston. Would you like a seconder for this? Councillor Byrne. All those in favour of please show. All those against? That's carried. Thank you. We move on to item 9, which is the annual governance and accountability review. So I may need the assistance of our highly talented RFO and Deputy Town Clerk to assist with this, but in essence Appendix E, F and G is what we work to all the time as a Town Council, which is the internal processes that the finance team have gone through, and everything is in order, which leads on to the AGAR. For those that don't know, it's the annual governance something or something, but it's the annual controls that are in place that are approved. So I think at this point, if you don't mind, I shall get our RFO and Deputy Town Clerk to explain this for approval.
Okay, as per the agenda and governance, by agreeing to items A, B and C, C being the internal audit report that was undertaken and has already been presented to the Finance Committee, that within that report of internal audit, item J, it will list basically section 1, which is the AGAR, stating that the council has performed within its internal controls and within legal and accounts regulations for the current financial year ending 31st of March 2025. That information, that report, suggests that we can tick yes to all the assertions that are listed within section 1 of the AGAR, which is why section 1 on the attachment was completed and ticked off. Then, after you've agreed, if you're happy to sign that off and agree that, then you're agreeing section 2, which is the actual figures of the accounts, which are also mirrored in the annual end-of-year internal audit report. Basically, they feel that obviously the council has conducted itself correctly, and we are doing everything within the guidance and regulations that are set out by them and by the Audit Commission. That's where we are.
Okay, thank you. So in essence, we've successfully achieved every objective with the exception of petty cash, because we don't carry petty cash, so we can't have a yes against that. And one other bit, which is limited assurance, because we're not limited. So we've covered everything that we need to do to complete the AGAR. So I just need this to be proposed and seconded, and then I have to sign it as chair, and the clerk signs it as well. So does anybody have any questions? This is just for section 1, which is page 4 of the AGAR. Any questions, comments, observations? Okay, I need a proposer to accept this. Councillor Baygrove, seconded. Councillor Pym. All those in favour, please show your hands. Thank you. All those against? Is that an against, or was it a slow removal? Thank you. Just checking. Okay, I will now sign this as chair. Oh dear. This is for section 1. So we have to do the same process on section 2, which details the finances, which are all approved through our finance committee, and they check that every month. And they are the figures, and they've been checked by the audits, etc., etc. So again, there is nothing untoward there, so I just need a proposer and a seconder to enable them to be signed. Proposed by Councillor Plim, seconded by Councillor Ruston. All those in favour, please show your hand. Any against? That's carried too. Okay, thank you. Councillor Grayson.
Thank you, Chair. Why I was slow putting my hand down is the attachments you've got aren't necessarily labelled correctly, because I was going to speak on Appendix H, which on my list is the variances on the account. I've got that shown as H as the top of the page.
H2.
Yeah, H2. I don't see anywhere where we're going to talk about it, but I have a question on it. I realise things go out of sync.
Yeah, it's H1 and H2. Which one did you wish to speak about?
I just wanted to ask a question about H2.
Yeah, okay.
Which is basically line 4, staff costs. The variance is up, explanation required, yes, and the explanation is blank.
Yeah.
So what was the last? The explanation is blank.
Blank.
Okay.
Yeah. It says an explanation is required, but that's the one that's blank. In fact, some others are blank as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi. That's an oversight on my part when that document went out. It's now been updated. You only have to fill in anything that's got a yes. So if it's a no, you don't have to put explanations in as per the requirement of the external auditor. The narration that's in, or should be, in your reports is the increase in scale points and government increase and national insurance and new roles.
It was in one of the other documents, yeah. I was just
so
checking.
I do apologise, that was missed out.
Thank you.
But that is adjusted and it will go to external audit showing that information.
Thank you.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that affects the vote that we took, so we'll move on. So that's the annual governance and accountability review. We move on to the Mayor's office. There are advantages sometimes to not having paperwork. So, my Mayor's report has been distributed to councillors, but this year I'm going to read it out as well because I think it was an error on my part because residents who look at our recordings wouldn't necessarily see my report. So, my Mayor report for June 25. So our first report for the year of 25-26 shows a busy start with 20 items on the list. Could be indicative that there's lots going on in our town. A couple of highlights for me, as usual. The attendance at the memorial service of Roy Alcorn from WW2, who was part of Bomber Command and completed many selfless deliveries of food to the Dutch, and without that food they may not have survived. It was a really humbling experience. If you haven't seen the ITV snippet, it is on Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council Facebook, and you'll see my deputy on full show. To attend the Sussex Day lunch at Bexhill College, which I went to on Sussex Day, to meet others from outside of Bexhill, and we're always given a minute to extol the benefits of what's going on in Bexhill, and many people there hadn't heard of the recent opening of the beach garden, and so I took that minute. The other thing I can't forget to mention is that I had the delight of presenting the cheque that I raised funds for Sidley Cricket Club from my fundraising event of £3,850. Fortune favours, they had a crowdfunder at the same time, so I put that into the crowdfunder, which took it up to nearly £5,000 that they got from that one event that I did. Excellent. So they continue as a club to raise funds, and I will mention their club day on Sunday the 20th of July. If you don't play cricket, it doesn't matter, pop up, have a look. There's a youth competition going on. There's one of these 2020 tournaments, so balls will be flying everywhere. There's plenty of room up there, and there's a bar that opens from 12. So if you haven't been up there, take the opportunity, 20th of July. And I've listed all the things that not just me, but my deputy has done during the month. So that is the end of my Mayor's report. Right, reports from external councillors. in order 11A to receive a report from the Division County Councillor, and we're very fortunate to have one here tonight, and I'm sure you would like your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Town Councillors, and very welcome to John Lee. Thank you. Your new Town Councillor. Access for all has always been my passion as well. If you make access for those least able, you make it access available for everybody. And that's something that East Sussex County Council can enable through drop curbs. So if you have any issues, please come to me and I will do my best to get it done. Parking. Every year to 18 months there is a ROTHA review which covers all the parking restrictions and regulations that the public have given us. We then analyse them and go through a long list, 5 stages of the procedure. In July next month there will be a new list of the informal consultations going out. We have a situation in Bexhill where the hours of operation of Delaware car park have been unfortunately extended. That has caused displacement with residents onto the roads. It's causing a problem for us as a county council because they say, I pay my permit, it's only £63, Rothers is £600 a year. However, the £63 that they are paying, they can't find a space. So part of this review will be to look at the hours of operation of, unfortunately, of the on-street parking, which if you're not a resident is not good, because it means if some of your visitors to your restaurants may want to go and they can't find a space. However, for the residents, they may be able to. So it's getting that balance right, and it's for you and your residents to then put into the consultation what you do. Changes to taxi times is likely to be in there as well. It's absolutely absurd to have a 24-hour taxi bay when you could have residents parked in that overnight. So that those hours may change. Potholes. I get a review every month on my portal. I know which potholes have been filled in which road. There were 67 repairs, 35 potholes. I've got each one in each road. I know what's going on in my division, which covers 2 1/3 wards. What we're trying to do, and it's a costly exercise, is to drill that down to wards, so each ward councillor within the town council can get their own report on all the repairs that have come out. Trying to get that conduit, that connectivity between what goes on in highways and what goes on at a ground level, so that your residents can go to you and say, look, what's going on, can you help? And we're there to help as well. Local government reorganisation I see is on there. And I nearly bought my horse and my hurdles and my fences today, just to give you an illustration. If you can conjure up either the Aintree and the, I don't know, what's it called up there? Aintree, that horse race. Grand, thank you. And there's, or go to Hickstead and see show jumping. And if you can imagine, as a trainer or as a rider, how you would try to do that course, you wouldn't just look at the first fence and think, well, that's my only obstacle. But this is the way local government reorganisation is going. We've got to get past the first hurdle before we can't think of the others. I'm thinking about the whole course, the whole race, every hurdle along the way. However, we have a problem with the first hurdle. The first hurdle is defining the area for the mayoral authority and the unitary authorities. There have been submissions by the 6 East Sussex and 5 district and boroughs. There have been different submissions which cause conflict, rather than us working at what the government wants us to do, to work as one. So there's a coastal strip that's been put in by a Labour group, and there's a federation been put in by the independents in Hastings, right, and putting in other alternatives, and which causes the minister, Jim Mahowan, has now got to try and make a decision about all these different ideas. And until we've crossed that hurdle, I'm being told, that there's no point in evaluating working costings about changing all the different 200 roles that the district and boroughs currently do, because we don't know what the areas are. I'm looking at the 200 roles that we do and how we can bring those in together. Part of that is the assets of the building. As you know, Eastbourne and Hastings haven't got town council and parish council, so they've got their own issues. Locally in Rother, the building there on the town hall is needed to provide functions for the community. There's the environmental health, there's licensing, there's planning. All those functions in temporary housing will still be needed. So that building belongs to Rother, which is 31 parishes outside the wonderful towns of Bexhill. So it's a Rother building. and there's going to be a need for that for the community benefit in the future. But that's just one of the issues to be discussed.
I have given you a lot more than 3 minutes because it was really interesting and important with devolution. I love the analogy. I wait for it every month. So you set the standard. Any councillors have any questions for Councillor Holland?
Oh, sorry. I've got a question for you.
Councillor
With the horse racing analogy still running, do we know what who the runners and riders are for the mayoral race, and what's your money on?
Well, I happen to be part of the selection for the group that I belong to, and I have a hint, but you will probably know, I believe, by the end of July. But we are the front runners to choose our candidates, and after that, we've got the other people that will probably put their candidates forward. But it does depend on the government defining what we do.
It's probably best not to speculate and wait until the fall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
any other questions?
Not me, anyway.
Councillor Jacklin.
I would like to say I quite like the idea of East Sussex as a county being preserved because people kind of know where it is.
Yeah, well, I hope you put that on your report, which closed the 23rd of June.
In the consultation.
If you did, and I hope you put forward that we call it Sussex, not Sussex and Brighton. So they were our wishes. That's what I put in.
Right.
But yeah.
Councillor Grayson.
Have East Sussex lobbied the Delaware car park? Because it's always been a source of confusion to me that the streets and the car parks are different.
Correct.
And they don't work together for the benefit of the residents. My own street is a residents only street. Well, it's at 11 o'clock in the morning. There are so many spaces there that people could use and go into the
Absolutely.
town centre.
They're two
it's
pieces.
a sledgehammer every time.
Yeah, they're two pieces of different of legislation. Off-street parking is done by the Placing Parking Places Act, and then on-street is traffic management because it's about road safety and flow of traffic. So they're different functionalities. Most of the cars, ideally, should be placed off-street, not on-street. But they are two different bits of legislation, and this is one reason why the government have realised that it's best to have a unitary that deals with one aspect. Same with waste collection and waste recycling. It's bonkers to have that sort of system. But it's going to take, this is what I'm being told, cargo knowledge is taking time. I've got to slow down, but you're right, it's on the list of...
Okay. Any other questions for Councillor Hollidge? I'll move on to district councillors. Any district councillors wishes to make a report? Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to share with everybody and all our residents that are present, on Friday morning, about 10 o'clock in Edgerton Park, I shall be cutting a ribbon to open the toilets, the new set of toilets that are there. And of course it's been a long time coming, but thank goodness for that. So I just wanted to let you all know.
What time is that again?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Okay. Any other district councillors wish to say something? Councillor Stanger.
Hello, thank you. Well done, John. Congratulations. Yeah, three things really. Just mainly, just obviously supporting the majority of my Normans Bay residents that we feel that the majority have contacted me. Normans Bay has its own identity. It's a village within Bexhill's boundaries, but it's also a village within Rother. So it would have been nice to consultate them and just ask the question, and I think you would have got a better response. And plus, half of our ward is also cut off, so myself and Councillor Winter, Councillor Jacklin's ward continues into Normans Bay now. So it's kind of, I know you put it on land, which is easier to put on because the toilets are now probably yours shortly, or whoever takes it over. But it would have been nice to consultate just to see what's going on, and if you could keep me up to date, and I'll keep the residents' association up to date going forward. Huge continued issues on the A259 Sluice Lane, major yesterday, weekend, continuous, New Liguri's been on it, and loads of people, Councillor Winter, continuously. We had a meeting, obviously there was a meeting arranged in April with Senior Director of National Highways, but it was a bit of a damp squid in. Councillor Hollidge went, Kieran Mullen, our MP, but it's banging against brick walls slightly, so it's a continuous issue. We're going to planning tomorrow. Highway said there's no objection to any traffic issues down there. it is what it is. You can't go against experts. I agree with my councillor colleague about the war memorial in Little Common. I would want it to see it moved, and I support fully that Bexhill Town Council is trying to take ownership and restore it in some way, which is fantastic. Herbrand Walks coming back on the agenda, it being the nature of it. It's ongoing discussion for months and continuous. It's part of a almost, I don't know what the exact terminology is, but it's like a joint action group which has Canberra in it, so it's like the police, all the services sit together, multi-agency type committee. Herbrand Walks is on there because it's a continuous issue. So hopefully we'll get rid of that come one resident, and hopefully not encourage more going forward. The other issue, all I was going to say was, being someone on planning committee, we have great representation from parishes all over. Like I said earlier, we've got how many parishes in Rother? The little tiny parish clerk from Watlington or from Westfield will come along and they'll represent and they'll put their case across, which really helps the planning committee make decisions. We, so far, have never had the Bexhill Town Council clerk or a officer come along to, best of my knowledge, to give their views of Bexhill Town Council. So I would encourage that in the future. Thank you. Any questions?
Councillor Winter.
Thank you, Jane. All I will say is I have been as a Bexhill Town Council to one planning meeting.
No, the councillors are a bit of member. I was saying.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the clerk.
And I should be going tomorrow as a councillor to speak against one planning application.
Councillor Finn.
Yeah, we had a long process right from the very start of Bexhill Town Council when we were submitting our comments on planning applications, and we never received any replies.
Yeah, but it's coming to the actual, like Westfield vocal voice, all the little tiny parishes. All I'm saying is Bexhill 45,000, Watlington 200. If they can shout their voice, I think Bexhill help, because at the moment we're under the 5-year housing supply. We're going to be victim to all these planning applications, so it's good to get your voice in. That's all I'm encouraging. That's it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I'll move on to ward reports and town councillors. Any town councillor wish to say something? Councillor Burnley.
Thanks. This morning I went to the rededication of St Barnabas Church. Now it's been rededicated because it's undergone significant alterations internally, and both Councillor Timpey and I were involved really right from the start. The whole ethos is to make it more relevant to the community, and the church was very lucky. At one point it was going to be pulled down, and we were discussing what was going to be in its place. Then they got left a legacy of, I think it was $750,000, which then enabled them to apply for other grants. And they came up with this idea of, as I say, reprofiling the whole church offering into the community. So within St Barnabas there is now a big social space. There is going to be a mezzanine floor put in which will have offices and committee rooms, again for social need. Part of the footprint of the vicarage and the church, the whole thing is being redesigned, and there's housing in there, but most importantly there are 10 units of temporary housing going to be in there. So watch this space, and if any of you have got churches in your wards that are struggling at the moment, I'm sure the diocese has taken note of this sort of plan, and it does take money, but the effort of the church to come back out to the community rather than being something separate, I wholeheartedly applaud. And the deputy mayor was with me this morning, and I think it was a really good event.
Very impressed.
And a buy-in from the community in general.
Okay, thank you. Any other town councillors? Councillor Jacklin.
I would just like to say, as a resident of Normans Bay, well done for getting the sign up. A point of clarification, so I realised that in the beginning you did try to seek a site to the west of Normans Bay, which is where the Rother boundary and the Bexhill boundary starts, but we were not able to find a suitable place. Whether it's worth moving or not, I don't know. The sign says "Welcome to Bexhill." Is it therefore a sign welcoming people, or is it a sign that marks the delineation of the boundary? If it's the former, it's in an acceptable position.
I can't comment on that. I wasn't around when it was done, but the one that is 500 yards from me isn't actually on the exact boundary of Bexhill. It's about 25 yards away from it. So I think it's close-ish. I think that's the principle. Councillor Flynn.
Yeah, I was chairing those committees as we went through. The idea was to have a sign to welcome people to the town of Bexhill on the boundary of Bexhill, and that was the nearest place we can put it, as you suggested there. There is nothing to stop us funding a sign for Norman's Bay alongside it. Similar to, there is a sign for Sidley, as was mentioned earlier on. But at the particular time we went through, we were looking to establish ourselves as a town council and basically mark our boundaries. We tidied up the boundaries that were on the 259, and then we looked at other inlets into the town. And there are only a few. There's only sort of a handful of roads that lead into Bexhill, whether they're A roads or B roads.
Can I just, this is about ward reports rather than across the table.
Yeah.
So, this is a ward report.
I think there is a small Norman's Bay sign, but hopefully the big Bexhill one will mean that people who didn't realise they were in Bexhill now know they're in Bexhill.
Okay. I think we've listened to some of the residents tonight, and I think we might have some actions to take away, because we are about listening to what people say. So if we don't, then there's no point having a town council, so we have to listen. Any other district town councillors want to say something?
Just a couple of things for Collington Ward. Pages Lane suspected sinkhole has finally been fixed 60 days after being told it was actually already completed. And 81 Coonan Drive, the planning saga continues and is now in the hands of Councillor Drayson, who's the only person that can call this into planning committee. The town council, the clerk, I don't know why the clerk seems to think that the town council can call it in, because it can't. I've had the constitution thrown at me this week, and the town council cannot call matters into planning.
Okay. Okay, we'll revisit that, because that's part of our process. It says that we can, so if that's wrong, we need to revisit the process. Okay. Any other town councillors wish to comment on a ward report? Otherwise, I shall move on to still under item 13. 12. Yes, sorry. Update on neighbourhood plan. This is a very current update.
It is a very, thank you, Chair. It is a very current update as of yesterday. Yeah, it's just a quick update really about the neighbourhood plan steering group following an informal meeting that took place between myself, the Chair, Councillor Plim and Councillor Thomas yesterday. It was informal ahead of our more formal meeting on next Tuesday, the 1st of July, with the relevant Rother District Council neighbourhood planning team. We spent some time talking about the difference between the neighbourhood plan, which as a town council we're looking into, and something called the Bexhill Spatial Plan, which is currently being worked on by the neighbourhood board. Lots of neighbourhoods titles going on here. Yeah. The key point is that a neighbourhood plan is a formal, legally recognised planning document. It involves proper consultation with residents at every stage, and actually residents sit on, at a later point, sit on the steering group that lead the neighbourhood plan. And it ends with a local referendum where all residents get a say, so the community has the final say. It's quite different from a spatial plan, which is more of a consultative document with no binding power and no vote for the residents at the end. We agreed that as elected members with a clear mandate from the 2021 big survey that the Town Council did, we're in a strong position to lead a process that's community driven, transparent and democratic, because the result, one of the questions within the big survey was, does the town want a neighbourhood plan? And the resounding result was, yes we do. So we have a clear mandate from the electorate who elected us for that. We also discussed whether we're starting this too late. It was quite an interesting discussion really, given local government reorganisation and devolution. Some of the concerns that were raised were whether a neighbourhood plan will still be recognised under any new planning authority, but at this point we think it's worth getting started while keeping a close eye on how things develop with devolution. We reminded ourselves that a neighbourhood plan has to line up with Rother's local plan. It can't, sort of cancel existing sites. It can suggest new sites or improvements to ones Rother have put in their local plan in the DASA. I did present a 6-page extensive document to the other 3 councillors and pulled together a variety of government documents that I spent the last 2 days reading, and now I'm bored to death. And we also looked at examples from Rye, Salehurst and Robertsbridge, Sedlescombe, and then Councillor Wilson presented Ninfield and Crowhurst. it was great to see some different examples, some of the processes, some took 3 years, some took 6 and 7 years. The first step is to decide the area we want the plan to cover, and we agreed informally, because we have no powers as the neighbourhood steering group, that it should be the entirety of Bexhill and not portioned up. It will need to go to Royal District Council for approval and public consultation. So the next steps are, next Tuesday we're meeting with the RDC officers to get advice and clarity. Obviously we'll bring those findings back to full council, and we'll start preparing the submission to designate Bexhill as a neighbourhood plan area. Lastly, we also agreed that we'll need to work alongside the neighbourhood board, not duplicate what they're doing, but make sure the community benefits from both efforts where possible. Thank you, Chair.
I think that summed it up very nicely. Connor did a lot of work in advance, and it's something that's been on the table of the Town Council for virtually 4 years since it's been in existence. So if we use local government review as an excuse not to do it, we will never do it. So we have, but I want to manage everyone's expectations. I've said before, this is a long process. One of the parishes we looked at had, I think it was 13 reviews at full council. So you go away, it goes back to full council, they review it, and then it goes back into the working group. So it can take a long time, but we have to start somewhere. Councillor Drayton.
Yeah, 2 points in the question. You're right to mention the local plan. In the new year, 2026, it will be going out again for consultation. Can I please ask every resident, every councillor to contribute to that consultation, because it will include sites for development. And it's not just to say no, it's also, as Councillor Winter said, well, this would be a better one. So there's that. But the other point I wanted to make, and I think at the moment, yes, neighbourhood plans will be here and recognised, but surely the government's withdrawal of funding for advice on how to start a neighbourhood plan might be showing where the government's lying and thinking neighbourhood plans won't apply. So I just wonder if you've got any more information, because I haven't seen any more about this.
That was discussed.
Yeah.
We know more than any other councillor. All we know was there was a maximum grant that you could get from government, and proportionately to the size of Bexhill, it's not a lot of money. If you're just on a small parish council of 600 residents, that would be a massive impact if they haven't got it. For us, proportionately, if we want to do it, we should still do it. But yeah, it's going to cost us more money. And we also, it's worth saying, we will need to probably get some form of help to build this paperwork. I thought I was quite organised, but I looked at it and went, so it's going to cost us money as a town council, so we all need to be prepared for that in future budgets. So, but we'll do the groundwork and not spend any money until we really have to, but I suspect we will have to spend money on it. Okay, questions, or shall I move on? I'll move on. Item 13, local government reorganisation. I don't want this to be a massive discussion under 13A. It's purely for councillors that weren't there. I'm just going to give an overview of where we are. It will be a couple of minutes. There was, all in all, about 8 or 9 town councillors, some double hatters there. But it was really open discussion that we had with Rother District Council, and the process that we're going to go through. The list that was provided, which we all saw, it's going to be categorised into about 6 categories, and that should be with us by Friday of this week. That was a commitment that we had from Will Wright. We'll then review that, and we will then decide whether we will call an extraordinary general meeting, or we believe we can put it on a July full council meeting, and there will still be enough time to follow the expressions of interest, because the cost and time involved for the officers of the town council to prepare an extra meeting, if we can do it in our normal meeting schedule, then that's what we're going to target to do, but we've got to wait for what Rother have promised us to send us. I'm sure if we don't get it by Monday morning, then we'll be following that up, because it's important. We know the time is tight, we know how long, but hopefully we've found a way forward to make some of these happen. That really is as much as was really said. I felt it was really open and honest. Processes were explained, everybody there now understands exactly, and I don't think that will be the last one. I suspect we'll have another one. So what we did say is that probably the councillors that went to the first one, if we do have a second one, the same councillors should go if they possibly can, because otherwise if other councillors go, there will be a bit of learning that they might miss out on because they weren't at the first one. But we'll see how that pans out. Okay? It's not really a question to ask, but that's what it was. I'm moving on to item 14. 14A, to note we're waiting for the next dates for the leaders' meeting, because we haven't had one since April, but I guess we're still in communication with them anyway. Councillor Dayson.
Thank you, Chair. It's not having a go at you, but could that be reworded to be properly saying the next meeting with the leader? We do not have a leader of this council. You are Chair, you are not the leader. It's not a meeting of leaders.
It's also not my meeting, it's the leaders' meeting. I think the leader of Rother District Council. Okay.
Thank you.
14B, to note, solicitors requested Rother District Council expedite the land registry. There was one piece of work that there was a bit of land, it needs to be registered. So that's being speeded up as quickly as you can with land registry. Councillor Drayson.
I think that's in what I've got shown as Appendix J. That's a double part one, so I put my hand up a bit too soon because it's on Section C.
Okay, thank you. That isn't the first time, and I'm sure we all do that. Councillor Zane.
It might need to be put in your questions at the end, but I did have a question about 14B. Obviously, it was my motion at the beginning of last year, 2024.
Yeah.
I realised not much was going to be able to be done last year, passing spring and then obviously getting into winter, so breaking ground would have been difficult. We've agreed on prices with the company that's going to do that, and we've all agreed on what we want to see there in Pepsham. Obviously, we're now in the middle of 2025, so that's 18 months now.
Yep.
My whole hope was that we'd be able to break ground in spring or summer this year, which is now starting to look unlikely as well. Could we get a rough idea on what's going to go on time-wise regarding that, even though it is a how long is a piece of string situation?
Let me merge this in with B and C and refer to Appendix J, which is the Pepsham Bay Park update, which has been provided. It links in with SIL money, and it's very difficult to give an actual date when you can do it, because until the land's registered, our solicitors won't sign it off, etc., etc. So, can I ask the IFO to talk through the Pepsham Play Area update?
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously this is way before my time, and obviously I know that it's frustrating for you all that it's been going on for quite some time. As Councillor Wilson has mentioned, that when we approached Surrey Hill solicitors for an update, the information coming back was that the land or part of the Pepsham recreation ground was unregistered and that we would need to go to land registry. They came back to ask whether we wanted this expedited. We obviously, the clerk came back and said yes we do. So at the moment we don't know what the time frame is on that. We can ask the solicitors, but obviously at the moment we have no idea. And the second part of my report, obviously, you've mentioned the quote is now quite old. And we need to, again, I approached the contractor that was originally agreed to quote and agreed at the tender. Basically, the new quote is an increase of around about just under 9,000 due to increase in material costs that have gone on since the 6th of March, whenever that was last year. And hence why I'm looking at where we could possibly get some match funding for this play area. Now, Rother strategic seal infrastructure match fund is available to us. At the moment for Bexhill there's around about 326,000 from my understanding from Aaron, who provided the information from Rother. I would like to, if the council is happy for me to do so, to put in an application for some seal funding. They offer up to 50% on the cost of the play area. If that's the case, I'd need to put that in tomorrow because the closing date from Rother was the 9th of June. On a discussion with them, we were happy to keep it open until tomorrow.
So there's two things with regard to this as I see it. One is, can we make a phone call with the solicitors to find out any more information around timescales, and B, do we want to apply for seal funding from Robert?
Just a few things on that, really. It's quite a shame it's taken this long because we only needed the area to build the park on, and Robert at the time said, no, you can't have that little area, you have to have all the area, which obviously wasn't even registered, and we have no idea. We're finding out about that now, so thanks to Robert for that. The seal money we put aside, and the amount of money that we did put aside for it, we also left a 10% play for it either way back then. So I believe that that's what we agreed in that meeting, was 10% up or down. So that £9,000 should be included in that, so we should be okay to go. However, obviously if we can get match funding, that would be great, that would be fantastic. I just do believe that I don't want to do anything that would hold up this project any longer, because it was a great start to the year, to 2024, and it was a great idea, a great project. But I think the longer we take on it just shows how long it does take to get things done for this council, and I think we should push on with this project now.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else want to say? Councillor Gluston.
Yeah, just mirroring what Councillor Ellis said, thank you for the update. I think for Bexhill, and everyone talks about accessibility and how Rother wants to do this and that, and we want to do this and that, but actually, proof's in the pudding. We've tried to do something quite amazing for the town that will benefit so many people, and it's never happened. So the talking about something is an easy tick box exercise. Yeah. When we've needed some buy-in to actually get a result of something, it's never happened. So we've now had a 5% increase, which someone's got to foot. So that's more money that's coming out of residents of the town. If the seal money application comes back and says no, that's another blocker for us. So are we able to identify other pots of money that could be presented back at a future meeting so that we constantly try and push it? Because what I don't want to happen is to wait, put an application in, wait for a result to come on.
Yeah.
If it's a no, then it's another meeting that we've got to do something. Before you know it, we're in next July.
So I don't see applying for a seal fund would stop us, because we have money in reserves, we're committed. This was the first project that I can remember where it was 100% unanimous decision. Every council that decided was behind this. So unless people have changed their minds, I'm not sure we're not blocking it, but we have had some issues because we just thought we could have one bit of it, and then we had to take all of it, and then we found out part of it wasn't registered, and all these things do hold things up. But I don't personally see, if we applied for match funding and we're told no, it wouldn't stop us doing it. The match funding is just a way of helping us get it a little bit cheaper, and it is community infrastructure. So I can't definitely say because I don't know, but
yeah,
I agree.
So, Councillor Goss.
I probably know the answer to this, but if this slither of land where it is in there doesn't actually affect what we want to do, can Rother not transfer the main area to us? I mean, presumably they've got to prove to land registry that the bit is theirs anyway, and they go through all these hoops. If they could just transfer it, and then at a later date maybe transfer the slither if necessary, so that we can get on and do it.
I think the issue is that it was our solicitors that identified a bit of it that wasn't registered. So, but I take your point. There must be a way around it. Councillor Drayson.
In answer to your two questions, should we make a phone call? Yes. Should we apply for match funding? Yes. I just wanted to understand from what the RF says, the increase, the shortfall of the increase opens up the possibility of applying. So, as you said, we've still got the money. We can still afford it if we need to.
Yes.
But this shares the cost.
We've seen earlier in the numbers how much money we've got in the bank.
As you said.
Yeah.
Yes and yes.
So, as I see it, it's a motion that's needed. One, to apply for seal infrastructure, and that's got to be done tonight because it's got to be put in tomorrow. And the second, a motion to try and follow up HM Land Registry. Two motions. So, first one, we'll do it in the order on here, Land Registry. Okay, forget the first one, we're just going to do the second motion, which is the applying for the seal infrastructure matching fund. Are you proposing it? Do we have a seconder?
Could we also, on that motion, could we also follow up Rother also, see if there is another way around it? to maybe start on the plot that we can get, because that's the plot we need. The rest of the plot we would just be upkeeping anyway, which isn't a problem.
I think probably we'd have to go back to Surrey Hills, our solicitors, because it's them that have said.
Yeah, I can just do that.
Just ask the question.
Our clerk will ask some questions. So we're just dealing with the one. So we've got a proposer and we've got a seconder. All those in favour of us applying for it? Very good. Any against? No. Motion passed. Excellent. So, item 15 on the agenda, external representatives. Rauk. Who's going to talk? Thank you. Thank you. Right, we'll go on to the external representatives route, which is becoming increasingly important.
We haven't had a meeting since the last town council meeting. However, it was proposed that there would be a meeting organised with ESALC to discuss devolution, and the proposal was that that meeting would be in June. So my question is to the clerk, through you, the chair, has there been any progress on that? Is it likely to happen at all in July, or not sure?
So a very recent, we have to have that meeting has been held.
The ESALC meeting.
Isn't it?
So you had an RDC meeting. There was a proposal to hold one with the other parishes under the auspices of ESALC outside of RALC.
I'm looking to my right. My clerk's going to help. Our clerk's going to help.
So we had a route meeting facilitated by Trevor Lego this Monday. I believe it was one of the dates that you said you couldn't do.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that meeting. I've literally just written up the notes if anyone wants to read them. I'm
So
sure
you'll circulate them. And so that was with the other parishes?
Yes, we had, I think it was 12 parishes came to that meeting.
Cool.
So I can do a little bit of, there's not much to say, but yeah, when you said that I was like, oh, I'm sure that's where I was on Monday. Maybe I'm going mad, I didn't. But so yeah, I did go to that meeting. It was my first RALC meeting. As I said, there was a lot of information there, but a lot of it we already knew. I think the parishes were more interested in the things that Trevor said there. But one of a few main points that Trevor pointed out was false information of devolution. If we hear anything, basically what he's saying to all councillors is, if we hear anything, then please don't just say it or put it on Facebook or, you know, ask our town clerk just to make sure that it is true, because there's a lot of misinformation, false information out there, and some councillors are just straight away putting it on Facebook, and then the public are having a look at that and saying, well, that shouldn't be like that, but it's not true. So as I said, that was his main points there that day, was just to make sure that we're not putting any misinformation out there. Yeah, and ask our clerk, which can then confirm it with Trevor Lego if we need to. And then there were a few comments just saying, sorry, I'm just having a look. There were a few comments on the neighbourhood plan from Trevor, which I believe weren't positive, but I would like to talk to some councillors about that. But that's it really from that meeting. But
yeah. So one of the aims to me was to get some solidarity on the point that where there were assets which were owned by ye olde Bexhill Town Council that were handed to Rother, they should be handed back at no cost. Was that covered?
it was, but it was. I'd rather not say here, just because it was personal from Trevor Lego rather than what should happen. Because obviously no one actually knows at the moment for what should happen with that. So I did ask the question to Trevor. It may be in the minutes, but it was a personal opinion, which I don't think.
Okay.
Should be discussed.
I think the other good thing is what Robert said at our session last Friday is that they are meeting with other town councils in Rother as well. We are not just. I thought we were unique, but we're not. They are engaging with everybody. So you would like to think there will be some comparable approaches across all of Rother, and I think RAUC will be even more important as we move forward for consistency. Anything else on RAUC? Okay, citizen advice, Councillor Byrne. Nothing to report?
Nothing new to report.
Bexhill Air Cadet Squadron. Have we got anything to report? No. There is going to be the reopening of the drill hall on the 17th of July.
17th.
So that's really good news, because for those that didn't know, members have had to go out to battle, I believe. So that's good news, that's going to be reopened. Bexhill Maritime, anything to add?
Not really, Chair. They've actually put the programme into 4 phases now, and but really it's all about the planning.
Okay.
So,
And that will be interesting.
yeah.
Littlegate Farm, Councillor Winter?
It was interesting, really. I went to them and they said, what's Bexhill Town Council? Thankfully, I know some of the service users, parents and carers are now staff, and they said, we didn't even know we had an external representative, but now it's you, we're more than happy to have you. So I've arranged a meeting with Andrea, the CEO, and some of the other staff members, and then hopefully in the next report there might be a little bit more, but we're seeing what we can do together.
I can see why they might have said that, because 3 councillors went there probably a year, 18 months ago, and we haven't been back, so I can see why they might have said that, but okay. So, to note Clark's appointment to the neighbourhood board, says yet to be confirmed. That's not quite right, it has been ratified, but our town clerk is now a full member of the neighbourhood board. Took me a while. Coombe Valley CIC?
The next meeting is towards the end of next month, and we've got an extra hour and a half with the leaders of RDC and Hastings Borough Council, because Coombe Valley's in both of those areas, part of which I presume will be to discuss the future. We've also got a new appointment from Rother in the name of Councillor Byrne, and we had an extraordinary meeting that I attended to tighten up the constitution just about who gets appointed from the external groups that are members of Coombe Valley.
Okay. Chamber of Commerce, Centurion, nothing to report on that yet, because again I would, if you've got businesses in your wards, push this fund. They've got money to give out for businesses who have small projects, and not many people are asking to use it. So if you know any businesses that have some small little projects that they might want something for. And J, to consider nominating external representative for Bathing Water Community Group. This is something I believe Southern Water are set up, and it's whether A, we want to have an external representative for that group, and B, who. Okay. Okay. So we can have more than one, by the sounds of it. So the first off, do we want to have an external representative, and then who? So this is Southern Water without water. Councillor Flynn.
Do we know how often they meet?
No, they're looking to set up their first meeting, I think they said the 28th of July, and they said they were going to do an introductory meeting, get to know everyone, and just take it from there. So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. I think it would be foolish for us not to get involved, to find out exactly how this is going to progress. And I'd like to put myself forward for that. Yeah.
Councillor Dracer.
As a town on the sea, we have to be part of this. And I didn't know we were supposed to be doing it by email, but I would be interested.
Councillor Jacklin?
Yeah, I concur. I think it's important, and we've noticed ups and downs in the quality of the water in front of our house over 32 years. I'd be happy to be involved.
Councillor Byrne, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to be represented. As an ex-scuba diver, I would very much like to be part of it.
Well, it sounds like that most people are saying we want to be involved. Yes. We've got 4 people that are... So is it okay we leave that to our clerk to contact them and say we've got 4 people and then see what happens?
I don't think we'll need 4, but...
No, but it sounds like, from what our clerk's read out, it will be an evolving thing. They'll test the water and see how it goes from there. Councillor Drayson.
It could be that they'd welcome 4 to the first one, and then between the 4 we go. But I don't want to go there.
Yeah. When I went to the unveiling of the sculpture by down the seafront, I had to admit that I've never been in the sea in this country. Never.
Wind.
Just saying. So, okay. Do you yeah, okay. We don't need a motion, we'll just get a clerk to contact them and progress it and see where it goes from there. I'd like to give you a little bit of notice. I'm going to be proposing another external representative in the next full council meeting, which is the Bexhill Art Group that is run by Flatlands down, and they've got a challenge to increase the visibility of all the art groups in Bexhill and bring them together as one group. And there's an awful lot of, we may or may not agree with the art world in Bexhill, but there's an awful lot of it propping up all around the place, and I think we should be involved in it, but I didn't get the motion in time. So if you want to be the external representative, let's give you a month to think about it. Okay. Item 16, to consider establishing a process for selecting the chair with a deadline set ahead of the annual meeting of the council. Councillor Drayson, that's your motion.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is an attempt to stop what I consider to almost be a bun fight this year over who would be chair of the council. I had indicated to some members months ago that I would be standing, but the dreaded mistrust of Rother district councillors seemed to raise its head again, so I decided not to stand. I was aware that Councillor Plym was going to stand, but was not aware of anyone else, although you, Chair, had stated that you would decide whether to stand for re-election or not a fortnight before. In my opinion, this situation did not give members sufficient time to consider the matter. I decided at the meeting to stand for chair, knowing that I would probably only get my vote, which happened. But don't get me wrong, I'd love to chair this council, and standing was not a frivolous or discourteous act, but rather to highlight how disorganised we are that someone can decide to stand on the night at the meeting. I think we owe it to good governance to come up with a system where the candidates are identified at or by the last meeting of the civic year in April, so that we go into the May annual meeting knowing who is standing. A similar system could be used for vice chair, but it would have to allow for members to stand for both and obviously withdraw if they got the main job. And nothing would prevent members from withdrawing. But I think to leave it, to have it open on the night to anyone who fancies it, shows us in our bad luck.
First off, do you have a second at your motion?
No. Yes.
Are you seconding that? Okay. We can debate it then. Councillor Say.
I just have a question. Why do you think that it makes a difference if it's a month before or a day before?
Because we're not voting, we are identifying the candidates, and in a month, I mean, I was told, for example, some people had promised their votes to somebody, which is pretty hard to do if somebody wasn't standing, and how you don't know who's standing before you promise your votes to someone. There is no clarity before the night over who is standing as chair of this council.
Okay, Councillor Pym.
The process we used is an agreed process by ESALC, tried and tested for many decades, and there's no need to change it. It works.
Councillor Jacklin.
I think the idea of people having to declare their intention at the meeting before is a good one. Whether they should also present their credentials at that time or in the actual meeting is a different question.
Councillor Byrne?
Yeah, I totally agree with Councillor Drayson's idea of looking at, it says to establish a process, so we're not ruling anything in or out. What we are ruling out is the nonsense of somebody deciding on the night. Obviously, discussions take place quite rightly prior to the election between various members, each member getting an idea of who wants to stand, what their key issues are. There's nothing wrong with having sort of offline discussions before you make up your mind, provided the actual process is fully visible and fully open and accountable. But I really agree with Councillor Drayson's idea of whether it's a month or 3 weeks or whatever, but certainly we need a process, and I think this council can probably agree one.
Okay, councillors.
I'm not against it, but I just don't understand it. I don't understand what the difference would be of a month or a day before. That's all I would say. Is I'm not against it, but I just don't understand why that would make such a difference if it's a day before or a month before.
That's all right, you're allowed to.
Potentially, 18 members could have stood for chair on that night.
It's possible, but to stand as chair, you can't stand as chair without a seconder.
Okay, 9 members.
Councillor
Doesn't that
Bagrove.
look silly?
Councillor Bagrove.
Well, this is not a slight on anybody, but this is my opinion of it, and it has always been so. In this council, there are 18 councillors, but not all of them want to put themselves forward for the chair and the deputy, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But for the people that do, it becomes a little bit of a race, and will you vote for me? Yeah, I'm voting for you. And it all goes like that. And the thing is, it's very internalised, and when you think of it, we are trying to give the people of this town a chair and a vice chair. That's what we're trying to do. And it would be good if we had some sort of a rota to know who is interested and who would like to go forth. And I've seen so many people bringing up on social media that that it would be nice to see the deputy going up to be the chair the next time. And that's, there's nothing, that's quite reasonable. It becomes a bit boring and a bit samey and a bit, clicky. It shouldn't be like that. We need a civilised way to have a rota and say, well, I would like to do it. Well, you'll have to wait 4 years. It only comes around once a year. And that's just my thoughts on it.
Councillor Zane.
Going back to Councillor Drayson's thing about 9 people being able to stand the day before, but they could stand the month before as well.
My system, they could, but then you'd know when you get to the annual meeting, you've got 9 people standing, and you will have decided, rather than on the night trying to go, oh, who am I going to vote for?
As I said, I'm not against it completely.
It's
I
just
don't
a
understand
clarity over who's standing with notice, not on the night. So the system, as you say, it could be the week before. It could be circulated with the agenda. These are the people that are standing, but we need to stop people going on the night. Oh, I fancy that. Just so we know who's we're likely to come back.
Just to clarify, I always said I would decide 2 weeks before. I made that very clear to anyone who asked me. I got told on social media platforms that I was already elected in January. That is not the case. The first year I was chair, I chose after 2 weeks before, and that was it. Maybe the answer is
2 weeks.
Maybe the answer is that the same as a motion, the name should be declared on the agenda when the summons is sent out for that meeting. But this says to consider establishing the process. It's not about us defining the process. That would be for the clerk to go away and define the process. And I'm going to ask the clerk to give an opinion in a minute, but Councillor Pym's waiting patiently.
Yes, it worries me that it seems that we could be falling into a trap of predetermining our decisions. And we are all supposed to come to these council meetings with no predetermined thought process.
Not
so.
Yes. That's planning, not
council as councillors. So you shouldn't come to these meetings knowing exactly what you're going to do. Have a rough idea, and you've got your own thoughts, but it should not be predetermined. And so therefore, I can't see why have it a month in advance. And it'd be very, very interesting to find out what other processes there are within that are recommended by ESOL that conform to good governance.
As Councillor Baker has spoken once, ask Clark her opinion.
Thank you. It's not so much an opinion, but I just wanted to sort of echo what Councillor Pym was saying. Yeah, as he said, you can have an idea and an opinion in your head, but I'm hearing around the room people saying they're hearing people promising each other votes. That's predetermination. That cannot happen. Your decisions must take place at the meeting. So you can have your opinion, come to the meeting and have your mind changed. That's fine, but you can't promise each other your votes before the meeting. That would, yeah, can't do that.
I'll come back to Councillor Daygrove and then I'll come to you, Councillor Brayson.
And again, this isn't a slight at anybody, but that does happen. It happens all the time. It happens every time. And I just want to look at the fairness of that happening, because although the chairman has just said that he was thinking about whether he would stand twice, the moment you decide that to even think about standing twice, it pushes somebody back down again, and they have to wait. You know, and some people would like 3 bashes of it, and then that pushes somebody back even further down the pecking order, and then it becomes all a bit difficult. As I said, we're doing this for the public. The public like the mayor, they like the pomp and ceremony, or some of them do, and you know, at least we could shake it up a little bit and give everybody a chance that wants that chance. There are people that don't. Thank you.
Councillor Ruston.
I think it's great to sit behind a screen or paper or watch the video and go, oh well, the deputy was deputy mayor last year, so they should be mayor this year. But put yourself in that person's shoes. You don't know what they do for a living. You don't know their personal lives. You don't know where their whereabouts are. I have never stood for mayor or deputy because my life does not suit that role. So why would you already say if you're deputy mayor this year, you will automatically become mayor next year? They might not want it. It might not be right for them. You don't know what's coming up in that year. So it's easy to say it'll spice things up and whatever else, but actually, if that was a case, it could make the council worse off. So try not to set that too much in stone. But I also don't see an issue with just turning up on the night, and like with many debates that we've had, change mind after hearing what one person says to another. I think we're getting into this, personally, we're wasting time on something that doesn't need to be changed when we can be focusing on so much more.
Yeah. Councillor Allen.
There's a few things I want to say, and one of them is to echo what Councillor Blagrove said, and yes, it's correct, everybody has to have a chance, and if 18 people on the stand, 18 people stand. We've also had people that have stood for chair, and in the same meeting, vice chair.
Yeah.
And that's for committees and also for mayor. So they stood for mayor and then didn't happen, they stood for vice mayor. They're deputy mayor. So how would that happen if it's predetermined? You wouldn't be able to put your name down for both. Maybe you just want to be somewhere making some sort of decision that you feel you're good at and that you feel you can contribute to. Also, if there is anything such as predetermined votes, wouldn't that be more of a case if you got 1 month before to be able to talk about it? I mean, isn't that what happens in a high level of politics? They've got a whip, etc., etc. So the longer you've got, the more that sort of thing goes on. I think that spontaneity about it works.
Councillor Jacqueline.
I would like to support Councillor Drayson's motion for the chair and for the chair only. The reason being is it's the most important decision that we have to take. I think at the moment we're privately acknowledging that there is some predetermination or informal predetermination going on. So maybe your idea of having the nominations a week beforehand is a good one rather than a month beforehand. But I think we should discuss it further.
Councillor Zane.
Sorry. Yes. Again, as I've said before, I don't disagree with that. I just don't quite understand what the difference would be a night before. So just saying that, and there was one more thing I wanted to say, but I've completely forgotten what that part of it was now. I've gone to that. So I may come back to you.
Councillor Drayton.
I would accept Councillor Jacqueline's amendment to have it only applied to chair. To come back what the clerk said, we didn't have any opportunity this year for those standing to speak, to address the meeting, as we got the co-opted members to tonight, or would be co-opted. And if you stand on the night, then you should be able to address the chair. All this is asking for is a system. I like the idea of a week. It's just knowing, not before the day, who it is, and then if we want to change our mind on the night because we're predisposed, not predetermined to vote for someone, I can't change my mind on the night just because someone says, oh, I fancy standing. Oh dear, oh, okay, you're my mate, I'll vote for you. We need to address the committee then.
So just to clarify, this year wasn't the only year that whoever is standing hasn't spoken. The previous year when I stood, they hadn't spoken, and this policy's been in place now for 4 years, and it's so. I don't think everyone. I think I've given every opportunity, and I don't want to. This is a yes or no. Do we want to do it? And unless anyone's got any really important things to add to it, it is a binary motion.
I do have one important thing.
Okay.
I just would like to say that I'm very happy with every single councillor sitting around this table, and I also trust every single councillor's decisions to vote for who they think will do the job properly. I do want to put that out there.
Okay.
Just one thing on tonight, if that's okay. So, like, just going by our co-option tonight, I came in, read everything, and thought, oh, I think I know who I'm going to vote for. And then we listened to councillors, we listened to the public at the time, and I'll be honest, I actually changed my mind from what I thought I was coming in. So I just don't think it makes a difference if it's a day before or a week before. But yeah.
Okay. So I think, sorry, Councillor Thomas, you haven't spoken, so I'll let you speak.
Yeah, there's things for and against either way, but we don't want to stop somebody who's, shall we say, up from there or not, and then decide on the last minute that, yes, I will go for it. We don't want a situation where if you have to put your name forward a week or a month ahead, it rules out somebody who's uncertain. Because there may be a very good reason that at the last minute it's gone away and said, oh, yes, okay, I can.
It's for that very reason why I never decided until 2 weeks before, because the world changes so quickly, my life can change, and I want to make sure. So can we go to a vote on this as to whether we're going to consider establishing a process or not?
Just check. As amended by Councillor Jones. Because I went on to talk about...
But to be fair, your motion just says chair. It doesn't say deputy, it just says chair. So happy to stick with those words? So, and bearing in mind, the establishing the process would be for our clerk to go away, establish some possibilities and then bring it back. So we have got until...
Can I
Yep.
I know you spoke about potential chairs speaking at the meeting, like our co-option candidates. I was just wondering if this does go ahead, is that something that you would want me to put in there?
Yeah. Yes.
That everyone, because it would be up to the outgoing chair anyway. But if you would like a policy that does say you can have your 3 minutes and say why you want to do it.
I'd say yes, potentially, but we're beginning to define the process. But I know you don't want to go through that hassle of doing it and have us all go, no.
The advantage of listening to co-option candidates speaking is I didn't know 3 of the candidates. After a year of being councillors, we would all know, we should all know what our skills are and what we can bring to the role of chair or deputy. So I'm not sure there's any benefit in us speaking. Councillor Timpey.
Thank you, Chair, but the public might not know.
True, that's true.
I think speaking is actually quite essential.
Okay, that's a good point.
I would be very happy with that. However, I think that should be a separate motion to this.
Okay.
So that could happen anyway, either way.
The first thing is to vote on this yes or no, whether we want to establish a process and then for our clerk to go away and come up with some thought processes and bring back to full council. So it's your motion, Councillor Drayson. You've got a seconder, Councillor Jacklin. All those in favour of this motion progressing, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. All those against, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go 6. So 8 to 6, that motion is passed.
And Chair, I've read the room.
Reserve the
I
right.
want to pull it back. I don't want to do 17. Withdraw.
Okay.
That's the word. I knew it was.
So from 16, 17 is retracted. We move on to item 18, which is motions from councillors. Councillor Plym is 18A. I'll hand the floor to you.
Yes, this motion came about as a result of a email I received. I was copied into the chain, where a member of the Chamber of Commerce has spotted some retail crime taking place within the town, and they were shocked at the level that was going on. And as a result of that, in my capacity as chair of Bexhill and Battle Trade Union Council, we organised an event in Devonshire Square, and we spoke highlighting shop crime, retail crime, and we spoke to a few of the shop workers that are around. And in my travels around to drum up support for that meeting, I popped into 2 retail units, one of which I'd only just missed a crime taking place, and the second of which I actually walked in this retail establishment as someone walked out with a bundle of goodies in their hands, laughing and joking as they made their merry way down the town. And I thought, have I just seen that? Have I just witnessed it? And I looked at the staff and I went, what's happened? Yeah, this happens all the time. Even today, I see a social media report, Warburton's. Someone walked into there and started stealing pet food. It's become rife in our town, and it's a major concern for the people at the moment. So, with my councillor's hat on, I suddenly thought, well, what can we as a town council do about this? Because that's what we're here for, is to try and change things for the better in Bexhill. And so one of those areas is that we can utilise sections of the Police Act 1996 to provide additional funding for police community support officer patrols, and we can direct them in specific areas. So we could say we would like more patrols in the retail areas of Sidley, Little Common and Bexhill. It's our choice whether we want the clerk to investigate this, or we just sort of say, well, it's not really something we want to be involved in. So I put it out there. I would like someone to second this, and hopefully we can debate it further and we see where we go with it.
Okay, so the first point is anyone happy to second that?
Yeah.
Councillor Timpey, you've got a seconder, so we can then debate it. So, may I just make an observation? You might want to consider some of the word changes. Sidley and Little Common is within Bexhill. And you're saying you want it within Bexhill, Sidley and Little Common. Well, Sidley and Little Common are within Bexhill.
What I've highlighted said in it is localised retail crime within Bexhill, Sidley and Little Common.
But
it's
Bexhill,
retail crime I'm highlighting.
Bexhill town centre.
I wanted to highlight the retail areas. There's 3 specific retail areas. And I did run this past the clerk beforehand, and there was
what
no
I'm saying
problems.
is Bexhill is a town.
Yeah, I realise.
Yeah. So you want it the whole of Bexhill and Sidley and Little Common.
You want me to put Central Bexhill on there?
I don't know, but you've
it's
covered
the
it.
It's the retail areas.
So
retail areas.
you've excluded Pebsham.
There is 3 shops in Pebsham, I believe.
We have to. I'm just saying. So
I think you're picking up. You're
so the first thing, you've got a seconder. Let's go around the table and debate. I'm going to start this side this time. Councillor Hunt.
Just a question around the PCSOs. Have they got powers of arrest?
I don't know.
And how, powers, because a lot of these retail establishments that you're talking about, like to Sainsbury's, they have security, but because of the laws around handling people, restraining people, they're not allowed to, which is why it goes on. So, in effect, if we have a PCSO, will that make any difference if they haven't got those rights or those powers?
Yeah. If I can.
Yeah.
Powers of arrest are after the event. I'm hoping that with an increase of patrols, you avoid the event. And so the actual crimes taking place will reduce.
But as you see at the moment, you'll see, I've the same as you, I've witnessed people going into Sainsbury's, walking out of Sainsbury's with a bundle of alcohol, and you've got the staff watching what they're doing, the security guard watching, and they're just walking along, laughing, because they know that they can't do anything about it. They've then got to get on the phone to the police. By the time the police get there, the bloke's long gone. It's a problem, not just in Bexhill, everywhere. And I don't know if a PCSO is going to actually make any difference with the cost it's going to come down to the council paying in making any difference whatsoever.
Okay. Councillor Bago.
Really, when you think about it, there's so much crime going on right now, and probably in every shop something's going on that some of them aren't even disclosing. And this means that each shop needs somebody looking on it, because, like you say, if you've got one, you know, he's only, you know, how's he going to get up the other end of the road if somebody else gets robbed up there? So it's very evident that each shop needs their own security, which of course they should be providing themselves if they want it to be effective. We've had 2 serious robberies going on in this town with the telephones, I think it was. What I'd like to know is, you know, we already pay for cameras in this town, which is, you know, it's not a deterrent, but it's going to help the police if they're facing, you know, if they're looking at that shop and who's coming out of it. But my question is, are we putting our money in the right place? Do I think we should put more PCSOs on? No, unless you're going to put one for every 3 shops or something like that, where they can be patrolling outside, and that cannot be done because it's too expensive to do that. I think we have to leave it to the shops to secure their own shop in the first instance.
You make a valid point about CCTV. We've got an action to review where our current CCTV is, and that's within the 2-year period. It's quite a piece of work, so that's a valid point, but that's on our list of things to do. I'm still going around this way. Councillor Goss.
First of all, I mean, I think it's something that our local police commissioner is, well, allegedly covering in providing more PCSOs, etc. I mean, news reports always sort of claim this, but I can't say that I've ever really seen them around. So I don't know if you did put more money into it, as they claim the government is or whatever, would we ever actually see them, or are they going to be so widespread that, you know, they could be anywhere?
Again, a good question. Councillor.
With all due respect to the other councillors, I'm a little bit younger than most councillors around the table, so not too long ago in my youth, I remember walking around the town. Well, I used to live in Devonshire Road anyway at one point, but I remember there being a pair of policemen patrolling the town every day. You'd know them, they're your local policemen, they'd be going through a lot of the town centre. And it was a deterrent, and not only was it a deterrent, you felt safe and they felt approachable. PCSOs, I think they would only work as a deterrent, which was also a good thing. Whether they have powers of arrest or not, I'm not sure. And I'd also like to find out if anybody did call the police, because I've had this happen to me in my place of business. If anybody did call the police and said, I've got a problem, but I just saw a policeman on the other side of the road, can they actually call them to come over, because they couldn't when I did? So if anyone calls the police, can these PCSOs be contacted, and can they make their way to that problem? But as a deterrent, I think would be brilliant.
Councillor Zhang.
I'm not against it, but I think we're sorry, my thing for tonight. So the only problem I see is we're saying obviously there will be a deterrent, but you've got to remember that they may be in Sidley and there's something going on in you know, Bexhill town centre. So although that's a good idea, we've got to remember that these people doing what they're doing know when to do it. So I worked in Sainsbury's many years ago, and they knew exactly when the security guard was there, when they weren't there. they do know when to do it. Most of them, I would say 90% of them would know what day or what time to go and where those police officers go at a certain time. As I said, I'm not against it, but will it solve it? I don't know. It's more, I would say, the powers that the security guards don't have and that the shops don't have for what the thieves or what people are doing can do. That's where the issue is. It's not having PCSOs. It's the powers that we don't have anymore against these people that can do it, and that's where the issue lays.
So, still going around this way, so I'll come back round. So Simon Yates is Chief Inspector and he's fully aware of the issues, and he's charged all the PCSOs and police in this area to have meet and greet sessions in everyone's wards. So I haven't seen that before the last 3 months. So they're aware of what they've got to do, but they have such limited resource. And how many retail outlets do we have in Bexhill? They can't be at every single shop. And when I was in Eastbourne this week, somebody stole 3 items from Boots, and a security guard went up, tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, "Can I have that back?" And he gave it back willingly. I've never seen anyone go and tap anyone on Bexhill on the shoulder and say, "Can I have that bottle of wine back?" Because there's a fear factor, and people who are taking these things know that. And it's a generic thing across the whole of the country, not specific to Bexhill. But I'm going to carry on going around that way and I'll come back round. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Chair. I may have got the acronym wrong. The DISC system.
Yeah.
Fine. What we're asking here is, is the council willing to vote some funding for something that will be effective? We then went on to discuss whether PCSOs will be the most effective way of doing it. What I would suggest is, because there is this DISC system and there are initiatives, police-led initiatives, which are trying to attack retail or trying to address retail crime, if we were to make the police commissioner aware of the fact that funds would be forthcoming and we would like their advice on what is the most effective way. So first of all, would extra funding make any difference? And secondly, would PCSOs be the way to go? Because we've just heard that there's difference of opinion as to whether they deter, whether the kids just laugh in their face and rush off or whatever. So I think for this council to vote an intent to provide funds if they're going to be effective would be good, and for those funds to provide them in line with the advice given by the police as to where those funds will be most effectively applied.
I think that's an important issue because we're making an assumption doing this will help without knowing whether it would from the other side.
Exactly, and there are live. It's a moving target.
Yeah.
What do we do about retail? And it's being debated in much better informed circles than ours.
Yeah.
But if we're saying there's a bit of money could be coming from the town council, I think A, it would be welcome, and B, we get some really good advice as to where it could be invested to get the best impact.
Okay. Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, I'm not against something being done. But I just, whether a PCSO is the right way.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that we do need to do something, but...
Councillor Jack.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think it's clearly an important problem, and it's interesting, I'm not the only person who's witnessed it. I think the most traumatic things I've heard are the retailers talking about the difficulty they have getting the police to do anything, the evidence trail they need to actually take people to court, which requires the thief to be shown taking stuff and getting out of the premises in a single trail without having gone via the till. So I think if we ask the police, the PCC is aware because Hollidge and Bayliss have brought it up at the scrutiny meetings, the Chamber of Commerce has brought it up. I think if we ask the police, if we say to the police, we've got some money, what should we do with it? Their answer will be give it to us. I think the experience of the retailers is that the police let them down too often, and so if we do anything, I think we should support the retailers to help themselves, whether that's through the DISC system or in other ways, I don't know. But thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, going around here. Who's next over here? Councillor Grayson? Sorry.
Yes. I agree. The PCOs aren't the way forwards. If they haven't got powers of arrest, then there's no point to them being there. A deterrent is something that you need, that can be enforceable. A PCO, if they can't arrest, if they can't detain, then there's no point. What needs to be done is to be these people who are committing these offences, and most of them are the same people, and the shop owners do know who they are. Yeah. They need to be identified and then banned from the town centre. They need to be stopped from coming in, they need to be stopped going to these shops, and that would be a deterrent. They need to be identifiable. These shops need to have GoPros, they need to have some form of identifying these. They can go around like you do with pubs, people who are getting barred from pubs. They had a system back where I used to live, that the pictures of all these people have circulated around the pubs, and if you're barred from one, you're barred from all. Yeah. And that's the sort of thing that would work as a deterrent for these thieves. Because it's a horrible thing. We go in the one-stop shop and the poor people are working there. You see their faces and they can't do anything. Yeah. These people are wandering and they're just robbing and blind, and they're sitting back and going, what can I do? Yeah. And the same thing with your security guards in. Yeah. The only one that is a bit of a deterrent is the chap that stands outside the goldsmiths. Now I believe he's got some sort of power. And they're like the same thing, we've got bouncers outside pubs. That they're allowed to get hold of people and throw them out if they're causing trouble. Those sort of things is what needs to be doing with these thieves, because they are repeat offenders. They are the ones that are going in and they're just laughing. So something like that needs to be done, I believe.
Okay. Councillor Grayson?
I think I'll start off with a warning for Councillor L, because he sounded old. Brings me back to the good old days when there were policemen in the street. I thought that was my street. This is a great motion that has brought up lots of discussion, and I'm sitting here thinking, are we talking additional PCSOs or additional patrols by the existing PCSOs? But really good points about police. I think somewhere we need to talk to the police, but I accept they will say give us the money, and that's not necessarily the answer. But I don't think we're informed enough here to make that decision. We need to somehow have a meeting. It's all very well having ward meetings with our locals, but we need the police to come to a council meeting to talk to, or to talk to one of the committees, so we can be better advised as to what to do. And I did think to get it back for next month might be unrealistically quite short for the clerk. But
probably
but it is it is urgent because the spike's now. So I know that wasn't an answer to anything, I'm afraid.
I notice you're going around the table. Councillor Rustam's after me. Can I come after him? Then
yes,
I can
we'll go.
Cool. Yeah, I can see what Councillor Pim's going to do, and sort of totally for that idea. But I do think we're missing a piece, because we're going straight from us to give money straight to the police. The shops that we know are targeted aren't the smaller ones. They are. I'm not saying they're not being targeted, but the majority are the bigger shops that bring in a lot of money, that won't employ anyone to help prevent that from happening. You've got staff there that are paid most probably minimum wage. Why are they going to do anything? Because I certainly wouldn't. Yeah. But we're not talking to the shops and the people that make decisions in those businesses directly. So before we start talking about money and throwing it straight to the police, there must be a better platform to get managers, regional managers, whatever it is, engaged in what we're trying to do.
Just on what Charlie was saying,
blockers are.
and what you're saying there is, like, a lot of these places, the likes of Tesco's, Asda, all of those sort of like the bigger retail outlets, they have, speaking to a friend of mine that works within the retail industry, they have an amount within their budget, their yearly budget, that they are allowed to have stolen, basically. It's ridiculous. So they'll say, right, our budget this year is £250,000 worth of gear can actually be stolen, and we're still under budget. So it's unfortunate with the bigger places, a lot of the loss is, well, it's just part of our budget. It's ridiculous, but I understand what you're saying, and it is right. They are the ones that need to be doing something. Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Iceland, Co-op, they're big corporations. They need to be doing something about it.
Other supermarkets are available as well. We'll go back to Councillor Pym, and then because you wanted to say something.
Just to say, I mean, a lot of these questions, will it make a difference? And people brought up the CCTV. It's not finite either, because we're not saying we're going to fund this every year ongoing until, you know, and it's not for every shop either. We're not saying we need someone at every shop. I mean, that would be ridiculous. The PCSO's powers, I'm not too sure. All of these questions, all of what we're raising, which are really legitimate questions, because we all know there's a concern here, all of this could be presented to us with the findings from the report that the clerk produces over this. So, no doubt the clerk has taken notice of what we're saying, and in her conversation with the police commissioner, no doubt these subjects will be raised, and then it can come back to us, and then we can decide. But to get the ball rolling, I would really strongly please ask everybody to pass this motion so we can get the ball rolling. Otherwise, it's pushed back.
Councillor Goss.
Just to note that some larger stores have it. The Ravenside Tesco's has security on the door, and you have to go through sort of push barriers to get them just to try and stay down. But most of the staff in the retail shops are instructed not to stop anybody because the threat of violence, knives, whatever, it's better that people don't get hurt.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up soon because we've spent a lot of time on this important time, but Councillor Hussain.
I'll be really quick. Yeah, agree with Councillor Plim. I think what we've all said is basically that something needs to be done, but let's go away, ask what their ideas are as well. It doesn't have to be a PCSO, and I completely agree with it. And rather than having, sorry, I'm going to add this, but rather than having the bullies that we've got in town that go around stopping people from throwing cigarettes on the floor, I think we should look at sorting out and helping the shops in town.
Do we need to amend the motion?
Yeah.
Yes. If you want something else to what this motion is, you need. Councillor Plim would have to amend it, and Councillor Jackson would have to agree the amendment.
I would respectfully ask you not to amend the motion, just pass it, let the clerk do some work and present it back to us. This isn't a decision-making motion other than going to find out the information. Once that comes back, we can then decide where we want to go with that.
Without being disrespectful, your motion says to fund additional PCSO patrols. That's not what people are saying.
And it does say present a report with findings, so we'll find out what those findings say.
Okay.
Could we just add to it to ask if there are any other
or other means?
from the police?
Yes.
It'd be a wider scope than PCSOs.
Yeah.
Let's ask the clerk what she feels about it.
I think an amendment would be helpful, purely because I don't want to get to the next meeting and I'm like, here's my report, and everyone's like, this is not what we agreed. So I think just for the sake of clarity, an amendment would be quite helpful.
Yeah, I think it's probably about what means could we support. So I would quickly like to pick up on the point that Councillor Hunt made about the larger retailers. So we've had several conversations with one in Eastbourne who has been to Downing Street as part of a National Association of Retailers initiative on this. So they are well looked after, and in fact their policy of letting it happen may well be contributing to the fact that it happens. Bexhill has a large number of independent retailers. I think if we could look at something that helps them, because that's part of the unique characteristic of our town.
Reading the room, what I'm hearing is that really none of us really know what the answer is. There's one suggestion here, but none of us are really comfortable to know. So I think it just needs an addition to it, that's one option. What other options are out there to support?
What was the clerk going to suggest?
I would suggest that you guys give me the authority to meet with the police, see what options are available, and then present that as a report.
That's exactly what I've got written down here. If you could write that down.
I was going to say take out PCSO, crime prevention initiative.
Yes.
Crime prevention
That's the
initiative.
only thing is the fund additional PCSOs.
Because I don't know what sections 25 and 96 of the Police Act 1996, how dare I not know it, being a police officer. I hope that doesn't constrict looking at crime prevention initiatives. It might only apply to PCSOs. So
I don't have an issue with it being PCSOs and other crime
prevention initiatives.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I'm hearing is some are saying, well, we'll fix it because you can't employ 150 of them. Will it help? We don't know. We've got to see. Councillor L.
So maybe just ask a question to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Not offer any money at the moment, not that I'm against it, but there's no need to. No, it was just something that was spoken about before by Councillor Bird. Not offering any money, but asking how we can help. What is it that we can do to help put something in place?
So if this was to be, if you agreed to this amendment to fund additional PCS patrols in these areas or any other
crime
prevention initiatives.
I'll accept that. I'll second that alteration to the motion.
So after the word areas and present, insert other crime prevention initiatives.
Yeah.
Are you accepting that as an amendment? Are you accepting this as a seconder? Right, okay. All those in favour of that, please show your hand. All those against? Abstentions? Okay, that?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to... We need, you're right, we need to, because we've had so many brilliant debates tonight, we need to quickly go through these and finish it off because there's a little bit at the end of the meeting. So, motion B is my motion, which is, in simple terms, to have Sidley Cricket Club as my chosen charity for my second year.
Is it a motion or is it your choice?
It's your choice.
Duly noted.
It is my choice, but I was told by our clerk last year I had to ask permission of this council to have my chosen charity and who I wanted to have.
I'll move it.
Seconded, thank you. Move on. That was a quick motion. C might be a little bit more contentious. That Bexhill Town Council considers having a Mayor's Ball in April 26 as a celebration of the work that Bexhill Town Council has achieved. So
how are we going to achieve it?
So I asked the question last year. It was a 2-point last year, and last year it was decided that Bexhill Town Council are too new as a town council to have, call it whatever you want, a ball, a civic, a mayor's event. Most town councils have them. I'm just asking the question. It's a very simple binary yes or no. Do we want to have a civic event in May of 2026? Most councils have them.
Can I have something to say? Is that allowed?
Yes. Yeah, you
so what I would like to say is, and this is born out of seeing what happened on social media yesterday, where people couldn't marry up. The ball, yes, we know about the ball, they happen, you know, they've always happened, and that's great. But the bit that followed it, which was about the progress, I haven't got my glasses on, anyway, about the progress of, what does that say?
Achieved.
Yeah, the achievements of the Bexhill Town Council. And I couldn't myself marry that up. I thought it wasn't written as well as it could have been for that motion. And
I apologise.
I just need to ask.
It's a straightforward.
I just need to ask if you've done a ball, why you couldn't just do a ball, which is what everybody knows, without that bit being tacked on the end. That's all. It's not a criticism, but
so
a point.
It's fine. They're my words. I wrote them. I apologise if it's led anybody down a rabbit warren. It's disappointing, again, as Councillor Sain has said, and I said at the annual parish meeting, when things are on social media, we should all just ignore it, because it's all a nonsense.
Well, you could all ignore it, but it's people and what they think, so they voice it.
Sorry. This motion is my motion, and I'm just asking this town council whether the Bexhill Town Council wish to have a ball in April next year. Forget anything else. Do we want to have a ball? At what point are we old enough, adult enough, organised enough to say this is our civic year, we're going to celebrate it?
It would have been great to say that. It would have been great to say that.
I've apologised for the words I've chosen.
That's fine.
But at what point do we say, do we have to wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And I will ask this every single year that I'm a councillor, because I think we should be shouting from the rooftops what we are doing at the end of this year. We've heard about Pebsham. We've heard about lots of things. We've heard about Devonshire Square toilets, all the money that we're spending, all the grant stuff that we've supported our local organisations in Bexhill over the 4 years we've been here. Most people don't know. We don't shout from the rooftops. And a civic event, you invite other civic leaders from other towns associated with us. We share what we're doing in Bexhill. They take ideas away from Bexhill and it improves their town. And I'm just asking the question, it's as simple as this. Does this town council wish to have a ball in April 26?
Should we ignore that bit on the end? Should we ignore that bit that's written in there then?
You can delete it if you want. I have apologised for it, Councillor Bagrove. I can't take
No, I
any more
understand that.
time.
I'm not saying that.
I have apologised.
I'm not saying that. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying, should we ignore that because that is the motion?
Delete
And
as
then
a
you
celebration
apologise
of
for
the
it.
work, and I've amended it to the Bexhill Town Council considers having a mayor ball in April 26.
So I'm happy to support the motion as it stands.
I've got a seconder. So
And a thirder.
it's a straightforward binary vote, yes or no. Do we want to have it?
Hang on, because I personally feel that, again, no disrespect, sorry, Councillor Baygrove, but we've had one comment made, but no one else has gone around and said, I completely agree with that motion as it stands.
Yep.
We always constantly say we don't ever share enough of what we're doing.
Yep.
The people don't know what we're doing and who we are. Why wouldn't we want to?
I agree.
Maybe we could ask Councillor
Because
Baygrove.
because of how it's worded, because of saying that we might not achieve anything.
But we won't be
We've
celebrating
achieved
mistakes.
so
We're
much
going to be celebrating
already,
achievements.
and we've done so much. But unfortunately, the 4 people or 5 people that comment online will never highlight anything like that.
No.
So let's do it ourselves. So I'm for that, and could be straight to the vote.
Councillor Sang.
Could we give Councillor Baygrove the opportunity to just say why she'd like that taken out?
Thank you. First of all, I've got nothing against having a ball. Nothing,
the end bit.
nothing against it at all.
The end bit.
But I know that when we've got a motion in front of us and that's what we're voting on, then that's fine. But for Councillor Wilson to actually apologise for that line, that means, that's why I said, shall we just ignore that bit and we're back to, shall we have a ball? And my answer to that would be yes. You know, but I just wanted to know what we're actually voting on, that's all.
I apologise for those words, Councillor Baygrove,
I do understand that.
because I sense you were upset at those, and it's important to apologise if you feel that someone's...
I don't think an apology was necessary. It's a little mistake, a faux pas, and it easily sorted out.
Can I just ask what the mistake? I just want to know what the actual mistake is.
He's already apologised for it, so he sees it as a mistake.
I don't understand.
Can you answer the
Okay.
why? The question is why.
Okay. First of all, I noted. I didn't write on it. I noted yesterday that many people couldn't add that up. They couldn't add up the ball and the other bit about the achievements. Because we know we have a ball, everybody knows that, you know, that's fine.
Can I just keep a bit of control over this?
Yeah.
Let's not comment on what is said on social media forever and a day, because it's a nonsense. It's the same 12 people, so let's focus on what we're talking about here. I only apologise, Councillor Baygrove, because I sensed that you didn't like it and were upset.
No, I'm not at all. Not at all. I'm not upset, and it's not I didn't like it. I just wanted to know what exactly, you know, what we are actually voting on. If you've taken it out, then we can vote on the next.
Well, you have been asked by Councillor saying why you don't like the bit in there as a celebration of work that BTC has achieved.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I didn't say I've got a problem with it. I just said that people had mentioned, and it's all right saying, oh, well, we can't look at that. It's what people... Social media, yes, sometimes it gets rough, but this is where people express their views.
But there's 45,000 people in Bexhill, and there's 3 people on Facebook that commented.
That's that old chestnut, yeah, but people will still say, even if there's only 10, they will still say what they think.
Can I remind everybody that questions come through the chair? That's everybody. Right, where are we going to go? I'm going to go this way this time. That's right.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you for apologising, Chair, because I believe that you've done that out of politeness and to streamline what we're doing, because we are running out of time. If we're going to be accepting a bull, I want to accept a bull for our achievements, not for our mistakes. I'm not going to go out there celebrating a mistake or celebrating something I've done badly. I'm going to be celebrating something that we've done right. So I agree on the wording on that. I disagree that we need to change it. And I also want to point out, we do listen to everyone in Bexhill. There are 3 or 4 names that are constantly coming up on Facebook. We had a co-option today where 4 very brave people stepped up to take on a very difficult job.
Yeah.
And there were options there for those people to be here tonight as well and have their say. And I understand it's not for everybody, I understand it's not easy to do. But not going away too much from this motion, I would like to support it. Thank you for the way you handled it, Chair. And I would like to support the achievements that we will hopefully be having at the end of the year of the Mayor's Board.
Okay. Councillor Drayson.
One bit I wanted to say, Councillor L, just touched on the end, the achievements we hope to be having. We're voting in May 25 to celebrate what we're going to do, not what we've done, which is the stumbling block for me. But I'm against the whole idea of the Town Council and a Mayor's Ball. A Mayor's Ball is a charity event run by the Mayor. It doesn't need to be sanctioned by the Bexhill Town Council. It doesn't have anything to do with the council. It is a mayor, as in his own civic right, has a charity ball. And it's not my place to say yay or nay.
Just to correct you, that's not how other towns and councils do it. The Town Council run the ball. Council. But the Mayor can do it as well.
Yeah. Just for clarification, the Mayor has a budget, and that budget hopefully will be used for this Mayor's Ball, rather than seek funding from council funds elsewhere.
It might be. The way I raised funds last year, I got people engaged, raffles, and it didn't cost anything.
Brilliant.
And it shouldn't cost anything because you charge to go. It's an affordable price. Yes, some dignitaries get a ticket for nothing because, like the Lord Lieutenant, you'd invite them, blah, blah, blah. You wouldn't expect them to buy a ticket, but the funds are enough to cover the whole event, and it shouldn't cost the Town Council any money, bar the time of the officers that need to do stuff. Where are we going next? Anyone else?
I was just going to say this thing. It's not till next year.
Yeah.
And talking about the word things that are being achieved, the things that's going to be achieved, especially if we get these town rangers going.
Yeah.
Again, as I said in my introduction, that's something I'd love to get involved in.
Yeah.
That's all of that work that these chaps can do. If we're talking about 3 lads, there's a fence that needed cutting. There was a thing that needed cutting. There's a pavement that needed clearing. All of that can be put on social media for BTC to say, look what we are doing.
Yeah.
And those achievements can be noted and will be noted on social media platforms. And that is something I was going to say in my introduction. With these town rangers, that's a marvellous opportunity to show what BTC can do and what these town rangers can and will be doing for the town, removing graffiti, clearing paths, helping where help needs doing. And that, I believe, will be a success by the time this ball comes around next year.
Okay, anyone else want to talk? Otherwise it will be a binary question, yes or no. Anyone else want to talk? Okay, so I'm sensing that the words that I was going to withdraw from the motion should be left in there.
Propose it.
So I'm going to propose it as the motion is laid down, having listened. So the Bexhill Town Council considers having a Mayor's Ball in April 26 as a celebration of the work of Bexhill Town Council has achieved during the year. So that's my proposal. Do I have a seconder? Quite a few. All those in favour of that, please show your hand. 12. All those against, please show your hand. 4 against. So that's carried. Okay. I'm very conscious of the time. We've still got time.
I just pointed out, I think we've only got 5 minutes.
We have.
Yeah.
We have got 5 minutes.
May it be worth asking Councillor Winter, because this is not going to do it justice, 5 minutes. So it might be worth asking Councillor Winter whether he wishes to delay this motion to the next meeting.
Now, what if I said no? No. Yes, 5 minutes is not enough. It's a substantial motion.
It is a very important motion.
It's a very important motion, devolution. So I'll move it till July.
Okay. Thank you for supporting that. And that's.
I'll send you my invoice for the time.
Okay. Correspondence and matters for information. There are none. The questions from councillors and future agenda. Right, there's the questions that were asked, and the answers are alongside it. Comments. So I'll move on to 20B to receive any questions from councillors. Being aware of the time, Councillor Winter.
Just a quick one. Please, or would it be possible for the Town Council or the Clerk to investigate moving the Normans Bay sign to the correct location? I have to ask that one.
Yeah. Any other questions? Councillor Jacklin?
I have a couple of questions that relate to the police's interpretation of the public interest test for prosecuting councillors. It's rather lengthy, and it also involves the extent to which other councillors have taken an interest in police investigations of councillors. So I think I will take some advice and come back at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Goss?
Yeah, at a previous meeting, I asked the clerk if the speed watch in Old Town had actually been carried out, having bought them a wonderful new camera and everything.
Yeah.
I'm still would like to know if they've done anything and what the results were.
Okay. Okay. We can find out. Councillor L.
It's already been covered, but would it be possible to please ask RDC if using the portion of the land that we need for the park is acceptable?
Yeah. Okay. Any future agenda items? To consider any risks to add it to the risk register? Otherwise, I'm going to turn over, and the date of the next meeting is the 30th of July. So, motions submitted by the 18th, and at that point, I close the meeting.
John, can I?
Well done, Chair.